Hey guys, David here and welcome to this week's guest interview. This week's topic is all about chasing leads, and I thought I'd start it off with a guy I didn't really know much about, but I kept hearing his name get spoken. And the reason I kept hearing it get spoken was because quite a few of our Facebook ad clients have been using this particular guy to help them chase their leads and either book them in for consultations or to make the sales. So before we do dive into this week's guest interview, if you are new to the channel, don't forget you can always subscribe by clicking that big red button below. That means you'll never miss another episode. But let's dive straight into this week's guest interview. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's special guest interview. Today, we have Pete Drinkwater, a guy I didn't really know anything about over the last couple of weeks, but I kept hearing the name Pete, my guy Pete. I was like, who is this Pete guy? When I spoke to a few of my Facebook ad clients, it was like, oh yeah, Pete does all my sales calls. He does all the chasing leads. And I was like, you know what, I've got to speak to this guy because this is the thing most people struggle with, chasing the leads and then actually making the sales either on the calls or getting them ready to buy when they come into the studio or your fitness business. So Pete, welcome to the show. How are things?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thank you. And
Good,
that was all intentional, staying under the radar. So maybe touch on that later.
But that's kind of good because your work or what you do, it gets spread through referrals, which is massive. You don't have to advertise and spend all this money to get your name out there. People are just referring you from one to another and so on, which is great. So we start all these episodes off by asking, how did you get started in the fitness industry?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose I probably got started like a load of people where I got convinced I could make 40 grand a year in my first year training to be a PT, such as the marketing slogan. But ultimately it was... Yeah, I'll be quite honest. Mine was just because I was rubbish at school. I always used to run around. So it's basically that was the only logical way I could really go. I had no interest in anything other than sport. So went and done my training. And mine wasn't actually a direct route into PT because I trained and I got into it, but I still really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I kind of floundered about for maybe a couple of years because I'd done it when I was 18. So it was quite early on. And then basically after that, doing a bits here and there. And then I kind of fell into, I went to Champneys, the health resort, where I was a fitness instructor. And that was 2 years. And you learn a lot there, but it was still it was boring, basically. And I've always found this, that I get bored very easy. So I need things to interest me. So I then decided I was going to go and work in Greece for 8 months. So I went and done that, teaching Pilates and doing sports massage, which is the party line when what really happened is I went and probably badly taught Pilates and got drunk a lot for 8 months. It was basically like a rep season. So when I came back from that, that's really where there was probably a lot of sales involved because I then didn't really know what I wanted to do, fell into a telesales, that was photocopier selling. It was so boring. But it was doing telesales, so that does teach you how to hammer the phone. And just basically you've got to be on it repetitively. And then basically it was kind of a long stream of that where I didn't really know how I wanted to go about it, but I was doing a lot of sales work and was quite naturally good at it. And then long story short, I then basically set up my own centre. And that was in 2014. So I set up my own centre, went into business with someone who was essentially in the investment and was meant to be the clerical side of things. And then fast forward to last February and left the business because we kind of get to a point where the views didn't match. And obviously when you've got someone pulling the purse strings, it makes it very hard, doesn't it? So it's kind of 6 years gone. So yeah, I mean, my fitness life has been quite all over the place. There's obviously a lot more detail in there. But then with PT, I've always found the actual application of PT fairly easy. I think I'm naturally, a people person, so I found that quite easy. But with opening the centre, the business, the sales, that sort of thing really interested me a lot more. And I was kind of really surging ahead with that side of things. So kind of fast forward to ending that. And then where I am now is basically, it was kind of an amalgamation of what I've trained to do and courses I've learned. And then basically I just kind of thought, well, actually, what I really enjoy doing is troubleshooting. So essentially what I do is go in, troubleshoot for businesses. A lot of it involves sales, and currently working for five fitness businesses of varying sizes, doing anything from the troubleshooting the business with the sales as well. So, the reason I'm under the radar, like when I was running the centre, I was big, loud on social media. So that was my job, to be seen. And now it's actually quite nice doing the other side of things where, because the people we work for, a lot of them, the point is we go in and it's not about saying, oh, we're doing this for you. It's about actually, let's fix the internals of your business so you can be the star and we just basically do the background stuff. So, sorry, that was the long answer to how we got to be here.
Wow, it was amazing. That the call centre, again, when I bring people on these episodes, I rarely know much about their previous life. You only see what they post on Facebook nowadays. And like, from being on your social media and just checking you out a few times, you'd have never known you ran such a massive call center and stuff. So it was definitely quite interesting. So I know this week's topic is going to be all about chasing leads and making sales, but let's maybe start with the troubleshooting part. Can you tell us more about that and how that is all set up and what you'd actually do with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically the troubleshooting is because I will fully admit I have messed up a lot in business. And I think, your real experience is not from someone. I mean, we love a bit of guru bashing, don't we? So you've got the kind of gurus that go in, they've never actually failed. They've never gone through that horrible bit where, you can't pay the next month's rent in the business and all this sort of stuff. So I've messed up a lot, but I've managed to find my way out of it. So the troubleshooting is me saying, well, look, I've got 15 years plus being a PT. I've got 8 years actually running businesses within fitness. And I also had a PT training business, so I was doing that. I also split off other little businesses. So I'm always interested in doing that. And the troubleshooting is because it's obviously very dependent on size of fitness business, because, there is obviously a cost attached to it. But if I can go in and, you've got fitness people that aren't naturally adept to business most of the time. They're not naturally adept to sales. It's not what they're there for. They're there because they want to help people. They want to train them. They want to, do that side of things. And then you've got the aspect of a very, very busy industry, a very cutthroat industry to a certain degree. Then you've got all the administrational problems, which, for people that are in fitness, naturally that's the boring stuff. That's what we call it. All your accounts, all your admin, all your structures, your processes, your SOPs, everything like that, that's the boring stuff. But unfortunately, and I used to do it myself, say, I can't be bothered with that, it's boring. But unfortunately, unless you actually pay attention to it, that stuff is going to make or break you. So with the troubleshooting, it basically goes through a process of going into businesses that it just something doesn't click and they can't quite break through where they want to be, or you've got owners that are absolutely, tired all the time, they're stressed, and it's just going in and saying, right, there's no fixed criteria, but I'm going to basically look at your whole business and I'm going to troubleshoot. But the bit I wanted to do was, rather than just go and tell people, which I think is easy, that anyone can look at someone's business and tell them what to do, is we go in, we tell them what we think needs doing, and then we basically work with them to implement, because that's the harder bit. So obviously a lot of the sales side of things, it's basically implementing for them, and then doing it ourselves and showing them the process, and then basically managing that structure. So the troubleshooting is essentially me going, well, look, guys, I've probably ballsed up more than you ever will, and I'll try and stop you ballsing up as much as I did, but I managed to get it right, and this is the process I had to go through. So that's basically how that looks. Is there's no fixed criteria, but it's the process of me using my expertise and working with the team we've got to basically fix all the holes and then make the business work really well.
So thinking about it then, it's more like an audit that you do initially to kind of find out the things that they need most help with and so on, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like an audit, but I think a lot of, if you spoke to an owner for half an hour, you can find out a lot about what's not working. And then if you just spend a bit of time understanding the business, being in it, just looking at different areas. So yeah, I suppose audit is a good way to look at it. We just basically evaluate what's going on. And there are some things that are way beyond me, because sometimes if there's a lot of internal errors and it's the person that's the problem. You and I both know, you run a centre. If you're the person that's the problem, I can say that, and I haven't got any issue saying that, but sometimes you just can't do it. So it's finding those people that are genuinely wanting to change, genuinely wanting to actually make things work. Sometimes you've got to be very delicate, because with business owners, you've got coaches involved, you've maybe got third-party staff, you've got freelancers, and then it becomes a little bit tricky, but that's where you've got to basically spend more time with it. So, I wanted to go down the more time-intensive route, which is why it is troubleshooting, because, like I said, again, it's so easy just to say, go ahead, bang, change that. Great. But that doesn't help, because most people know where the problem is, but it's actually how you instigate the change to make it happen. So the audit, the evaluation is the important bit, but it's then having the expertise to be able to change it. It's like I said, it's great telling people what's wrong, but then you've got to be able to do something about it and help them out of the situation.
Okay, perfect. So if somebody's watching or listening to this, what kind of maybe 5 or 6 things would you need to look at first when you went into their business? So you weren't going in to help them, they were just maybe trying to do it themselves. What type of 5 or 6 things would you think you'd need to look at in your business first, so that they could mark down and maybe give themselves marks out of 10 to what areas they need to really focus on and improve on?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose it's key areas. So a big one is offering. A lot of people are very, very driven by what everyone else is doing. So rather than saying, actually, what do I want to do? It's like, oh, well, they're doing this. Because, as you well know, fitness, you basically look at the market average. What are people charging for this amount of offering? So one of the main things is just saying, right, what do you actually offer? And for most people at the moment, it's some form of group training, isn't it? We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have then got to look at the offer and go, okay, well, how can I make this mine? Because, people can spot a bland product. And then if a bland product is there, that gets carried through into the coaching because they're uninspired. Then that gets carried through to the clients because they can tell the coaches don't want to do it and it's just bland, boring, and all they're trying to do is smash the shit out of them every time they go in there. And it's crap. So the first thing I always look at is saying, right, what is your offering? Because that ultimately is going to dictate everything, isn't it? And it doesn't have to be complicated. This is what I'm very, very focused on, simplicity, because I don't think things have to be overcomplicated all the time. Just keep it simple, but look at the offering. And then moving on from the offering, you're saying, right, how is that then managed? So, the coaching side of things, I don't really tend to get involved with because, I don't have to tell people how to suck eggs. If they want my advice on the actual physical coaching, then I'll give it, but it's not really what I'm there for. So it's looking at how the process, what the offering is, and then how is that managed? And that's normally where people fall down, because you go, okay, so let's say you've got a centre, you've got 100 active members. How are you running that? What is actually in place to mean that you're going to keep retention? It's a smooth transition. You're not getting messaged 12 times a day from people who go, oh, I can't book this, I can't do that, I can't do this. That is such a time suck. So that's the bit where I probably spend most time, is saying, right, how can we tidy this up? How can we make it into a process that people don't have to go, oh, I'm worried every day I wake up that there's going to be 5 pissed off customers because they couldn't book on a class or they couldn't do this. So looking at that's a massive part. So you've got your offering. You've got how it's actually going to be managed, are massive, massive parts. And then basically it's how can you really bulletproof it is another part. So how it's going to be managed. And then how can you make sure there's not going to be a constant clusterfuck of problems, basically. Excuse me swearing. Because if you can look at that, and it's hard for people when they're in a business, isn't it? When you're in a business, you love that business. You're, that's my business, that's mine, that's my heart and soul. But then you can't look at it and go, well, actually, that isn't working. That's not a very good offering. That's going to cause the problem there. And it's just looking at all those pieces, isn't it? And just working out what's going to cause a problem, what's going to cost time, what's going to cause stress. And then basically putting processes and procedures in place. Because once you take that stress of the day-to-day function, of the day-to-day grind of doing it, which is the unenjoyable bit, whether we want to admit it or not, nobody enjoys having to deal with problem, well, apart from me, it seems, having to deal with the administrative problems, that sort of thing. So if you can take that away and put a structure in place that means it's not going to be a problem, then great, everything works really smoothly. But obviously the trick is with that sort of thing, it's having someone to support you. So often, a lot of the time, I'll basically become a co-founder for a month, if you like, because you're actually working with the owner and going, right, well, look, doing it on your own is tough. So what if I can basically support you with it? And naturally, by my very nature, I'm a little bit more brash and bold. So, if people are worrying about upsetting coaches that need to do things in a certain way, that's where I can help out. So it all really stems from get the offering right, make sure it's all managed properly, make sure you're going to troubleshoot. And really that's it. The rest of the stuff, obviously, all sales, all marketing and all that comes within the planning stage. So, but those are the first things. If we can get that right and we get a clear understanding, that is where 90% of the problems is going to be, is that you need to basically understand a clear plan, a clear path, who does what, how are they going to do it, and how's it going to run. I don't know if that was a concise answer, but once I start getting going, that's it.
No, that's perfect. So again, this is what a lot of people tend to struggle with. Like you say, they see what offers people are putting out and they might replicate that offer, but what they're missing out is all the background stuff. So something we talk about a lot is the onboarding process that makes your life easier. And that is from the minute they've actually given you the physical cash or paid via whatever, what actually happens in that first 24 hours, because what happens in that first 24 or 48 hours could possibly dictate how they get on with their first month. If you've made their first session complicated and difficult to book, they're having to download 5 or 6 different apps and everything. It's making it difficult. So it's having an onboard process. And then, like you were saying there, making sure you understand that client journey from day 0 to day 30, if it's a 4-week. So you can put things in place, guides after the first week of feeling sore because they've got serious DOMs. So they don't have to message you constantly, why am I feeling sore? Am I feeling sore and all this? Day 3, they get an email telling them this is why you're sore. So it saves them so much time, which, exactly. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying.
That's it. A simple bit of advice for anyone watching that is in this space is just think about it this way. If you've got a massive bit of A1 bit of paper and you basically write first contact, whatever that looks like, and then literally mapped out every interaction you're going to have with that person to get them to the end point. Because I'm a big fan of obviously campaigns, doing these 6-week intros or whatever it looks like, because I think a healthy business runs when you've got members that are, creating a good high baseline, but then you earn your big money when you do these campaigns, because it takes less stress off. It organizes the business. It means when you're going to be busy, when you're going to have downtime, because then it avoids burnout. And if you plan that entire journey, and then you've got people to look at it and go, right, where can you see a potential problem? All right, well, look, someone's coming in, they've been contacted really well to start with, but then after their first session, what happens? Oh, right, well, just book in for the next. Yeah, but like you said, what if they're sore? What if you've got people coming in fresh to exercise and they've got DOMs? Because people that don't know that's going to happen, that's a classic one. They'll go, shit, they've killed me, they've hurt me, I've got real big problems.
Never going back. Yeah.
No, exactly. And they just go, well, that was awful. And then they're going to go and tell all their friends, no, they just really hit me hard. So, just as simple as basically, a welcome email saying, guys, let's talk about the elephant in the room, DOMs. This is what it is. This is why it occurs, and just reassuring them that after the first session, it's not going to feel like that. It will decrease. Obviously, soreness is good, yada, yada, yada. But having said that, there are a lot of PTs that think just smashing the living crap out of someone equals a good session, and it doesn't. If you've got people that want that and they're well versed and they understand that sort of exercise, great. It's just thinking about things on the longer,
That bit you just mentioned then comes back to knowing your offer, which was the first thing you understand, that knowing the offering. Because if you're taking people on that don't want to get beasted every session and you're beasting them every session, then what you're offering is attracting the wrong type of people that you're selling it to. So it comes back again to knowing your clients, which is a step before that again. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And that's obviously, the sales and the marketing side of things where you're involved as well. It's having that understanding because, you know, it is tough. I've been in a position where you just think, shit, I just got to get people in. It is what it is. I just need people in. I need to make sure, I'm getting as many people in as I can. But that just makes a bigger problem further down the line. So it's having that clear offering, it's understanding them, it's stress testing it, and it's just making sure, you've got it all planned. Because my big thing is experience. That's what I'm all about. And that's really what I focus everything about is the user experience and the client experience. Because if they have a shit experience at any stage, then that's going to diminish their enjoyment. So if you say, for the average person, when they come in, they've got 100%. And then the earlier on they have a bad experience, you can chop a higher number off. So bad first call. If you salvage it, that's 25% experience down. Bad first session, you maybe chop 50%, and they've only got 25% chance of actually joining. Do you see what I mean? So it's just sort of looking at that. When people get further along the line, then if you mess up, members that know you and like you, they're a little bit more okay with the fact that, mess something up, I'm sorry, this is why it happened. But having it, that first bit is a crucial time to get the experience right, because then people want to stay.
Yeah, because like you say, if you've got that 4-week or 6-week intro and then they move into the long-term or monthly clients, you have that time to show them it's you're doing it right. And if your conversion into long-term or monthly client is poor, your retention is poor, they join and then, I don't know, maybe 20% of those people stay on. The proof is there is something wrong with that onboarding, knowing your client setup that you need to improve to make it from 20. It should be like 85, 90%. The only people that are leaving are people who've come for a wedding or a holiday and they just need you for that specific period of time. If the experience, like you said, is there, it should be something completely unique that they don't get from any other part of life that they have. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's kind of one thing. Let's talk about what we wanted to really talk about today, which is chasing the leads, and then obviously at the end, making that sale. Because a lot of people, they run Facebook ads, they phone the person up once, person doesn't answer, ad's not working. It's way more complicated than that. So I'll kind of just let you go for it. Kind of start from the Facebook ads to really chasing that lead and getting them on that sales call.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, basically, I've got a little thing I do. I call it, applying CPR. Obviously, a hilarious play on words, but it's consistent, persistent, resilient. And that's what I think a lot of people. So, and I will say, you're either good at sales or you're not. Yes, you can learn sort of things, but I think people do need to be okay with the fact that there may be, they're not. And then early on recognize that and basically get help or outsource or whatever it is. But, because I've seen a lot of people crash and burn just because they can't work out why it's not working when they've done all these courses. So, that's just a prefacing it. So
I need to put my hand up there straight away. The minute I got qualified, I did a few phone calls and I was like, you know what? I just can't do it. I dread having to phone these people up. I spent £100, £200 on ads and I'm like, only phone 2 or 3 other people. And I'm like, I'm wasting all this money. Let's get help. And it literally changed everything. She was doing phone calls and people were booking in for consultations. So yeah, if you're not confident on the phone, either get good ASAP or get help from someone like Pete or someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and at the end, if you remind me, I'll kind of go through my view on telephone manner as well. But I'll start with the process. So when leads come in, personally, and this works for me, and I do think, and I'll go over this at the end about sales manner and sales process being an individual thing. But what I do is rather than call someone straight away, I always text. And the reason I send a text is because when I'm first making contact, I'm always thinking, how can I maximize my uptime? So if let's say I've got 20 people, and I'm going to try and call 20 people. Now, chances are it's scattered times through the day, because we're all busy. They're busy as well. So what's the chances of actually making that initial phone call and then do you know what, Pete, that's really handy. I'm sat down at a table quietly, ready to talk through everything. Wasn't that a stroke of luck? It doesn't work like that. So I send a message, and mine is literally, my whole thing is just about, trying to be friendly and making people feel good. So I want it to be an exciting, happy event from the get-go. So the first message is just something like that. Hey, it's Pete from blah, blah, blah. Thanks so much for getting in touch. Really looking forward to speaking with you. When would be good? I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's nothing clever. And then that's it. Because then I'm basically putting the ball in their court. They've got to reply, and then they've got to basically say, look, this time's good. And through that process, that's what works the best for me, no matter what I've tried. I have done all the calls straight away. It doesn't work because people aren't ready. And the best way you're ever going to get that kind of conversion is getting people into a position where they're comfortable, they're not rushed, and you're not pissing them off, basically, with a phone call. That's what it boils down to. So once they get a time, and basically I'll start with the people that don't respond first time, because, people get a lot of it. Firstly, in my opinion, you ain't going to get everyone. So it's okay. Some people just won't. And what I then do is I just basically send another message saying, look, you obviously inquired for a reason. I haven't heard from you. So firstly, are you okay? And secondly, should I just assume this isn't for you? That works for me because I've got quite a friendly but a blunt manner. And some people are like, oh, Pete, I'm so sorry, I was held up. Because it's not going, oh, hey, can we book a call? They're like, oh, no. It's like, look, either do it or don't, but make a decision.
But
and
again,
then that second one,
that comes to urgency for a lot of people that are not great with sales. Just putting that little bit of urgency. If you don't reply, I'm going to remove you off it. That forces their hand to have to reply. Yeah.
Exactly. And I kind of look at it, if someone's not going to reply within a couple of messages, controversial or not, obviously my sales figures speak for themselves, but I've not suffered from not constantly calling someone, because I do think if you have to force people to a certain degree and badger them, then it kind of makes for a bad long-term client. But I have to understand the business I'm working with to obviously understand the client need. So that will vary from business to business. That's not always this steadfast, but that's kind of an example of what I do. So yeah, if that's the case, normally they'll either not respond. Okay, it is what it is. I'm always obviously making sure my conversion rates are high. That's obviously a thing. If I was having like a 5% conversion rate, I would be chasing the living hell out of everything. But it's not. So I can kind of say, all right, well, it's just not for them, and we'd rather work with people, because I'm sure as you tell clients, you want to be working on a lead base bigger than you could ever physically cope with in your center. It's just common sense, isn't it? You want to be getting so many leads in, you couldn't physically cope with them all. So when people say, yeah, Pete, this is the time I'm free, I don't really have a set time. I work in blocks and I manage my calendar, but sorry, just another little point about time. I don't know if anyone else with kids, but I've got kids, and you can still make it work with looking after a child that's not at school and having to homeschool. So I think a note to a lot of people that are saying, oh, I can't get hold of them. You're in fitness. You have to work morning and evening on weekends. You just suck it up. It is where it is. If you want that money, you've got to put a bit of work in and accept that sometimes you're going to have to do evening calls. But I don't mind that, because I'll put my daughter to bed, for example, now do an hour's worth of calls. They're good calls. People are at home, they're relaxed, they're ready, and they're ready to talk and they're ready to buy. That's the way I look at it. So once we get that call booked, I'll then, again, it goes through the process of what the business is offering, what the structure is. But a typical would just be, my phone manner, again, is I just want to make it nice. I want to make it happy. I'm not a fan of negative selling, making people feel like shit and want to cry. It's just not my manner, because that's not what I'm like. And I do feel like, the issues with people when they're learning how to sell is they're obviously going to imprint the personality and the training type from the person that's teaching them. And, my biggest bit of advice is just one size does not fit all. And you've got to kind of be aware of that and find your own style, because my style is, look, let's talk about the facts. Let me understand you. And then basically, I just want to kind of go through how it's going to benefit you. And all it really is, sales isn't difficult per se. It's aligning what they want, what you've got, making it work. That's really what it boils down to. So it's basically when I'm on the call, it's just listening as well. It might not tell by now that I do listen well, but I can shut up when I need to. And it's just letting that person explain what it is they want. Obviously, the leads coming in, from people like yourself, they're good leads, so it makes it easier. They know what they're there for. And then you just explain what's going to happen. It's not about trying to go, because I think with gym memberships, there is a time and a place depending on price when you have to go really deep with people and you have to talk about, the deeper issues of stuff. But, what's wrong with just making people feel amazing for doing it? What's wrong with just saying, do you know what, this is going to work, and at the end of it, this is how you're going to feel. This is the processes involved. This is why I think it'd be a great choice for you. And just being genuine. I think I do well with sales. It's just because I'm honest. I'm very genuine with what I'm saying, and I just give people the facts. I don't try and talk at them. And now, one thing that does piss me off when I've looked before about PT selling, it's look how clever I am. Look how clever I am. Listen to what I'm saying. Look how clever I am. And people are like, it doesn't mean shit. You can know everything. You can know every book in the world, but ultimately solve my problem.
That comes back to the same question of how many times have you ever been asked, can I see your personal training qualification? I mean, when people come in, they don't care what qualifications you have. They care that you can help them. So like you said, just listen to what they've got to say and not talk about how great you are.
Exactly. It's just remembering, and I suppose this is probably the reason why I've got into troubleshooting. It's solving problems. If you orientate your entire chat, your entire focus of the phone call about how can I solve the problem without sounding like a cheesy guru, then why wouldn't people sign up? Because ultimately, what are the objections? Price? Suck it up. It just is what it is. Not everyone's going to pay for it, but that does involve you explaining it properly. Because if I said, "Hi, David, so what you're going to get is you're going to get 3 sessions a week. We're going to give you a little bit of a boost with your nutrition, and then we're going to just G you up and see how you get on the week." How shit does that sound? That's something like I pay 20 quid a month for at most. Whereas if I said, well, look, what we're going to do is, you've got 3 structured sessions a week that are being led by a personal trainer. They're there to help you. They're there to support you. They're there to guide you. Why don't we take the thinking time out of it for you? All you've got to do is turn up. We've done it all for you. We've done the plan, and we're going to get you stronger, fitter, healthier, leaner, whatever it is. You've just got to turn up, and those coaches will look after you. And then with your nutrition, have you got any bad habits? Are you struggling with nutrition? Obviously, always yes. Right, brilliant. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit down, we're going to do this. We're going to make sure you understand it, make sure it's actionable, doable, blah, 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 blah. And then look, we actually care about how you're going to do. So we're going to make sure we speak to you at least every week. The coaches are going to be there. How much better does that sound? So you go from 20 quid a month up to 200 quid a month.
It's like the perfect copywriting example. You get 3 personal training sessions a week so that you always put so that to emphasize the point of why you're giving it to them, and not make yourself look great, make them feel great because of what they're getting.
Exactly. And it's just, I suppose it's just spend the time talking, just spend the time, be interested, because that is why a lot of calls fail as well. Another one. Right, yeah, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. Oh, you don't want to buy it, right, fuck off. And it's just, people get so pissed off being told no, but it's just because all you're doing is hammering through and seeing it as a singular task. Whereas, every one of them should be treated with a bit of, love and care, because ultimately, when these people call up, depending on what they're calling up for, they're normally nervous, they're normally know they need help. They don't want to be condescended to. They want people to actually explain the process, make them feel at ease, make them feel good, make them feel excited about going through the next step, and just be clear. It's just about being clear and being confident with it.
And that point there that you said about not rushing these phone calls, this is where, again, a lot of people get slightly confused with Facebook ads. They think that spend loads and loads of money, generate loads and loads of leads, and then we'll make more sales. But then if you're rushing these leads, you're not giving them your full attention. It would have been better spending less time, having a lot less leads, or spending less money, having a lot less leads, and actually making more sales because you're actually putting that effort in. And like you said, first impressions count. You leave that good first impression, and long term, they may stay with you 2, 3, 6 months longer than they would have if you'd just rushed the whole process.
Experience. If I'd come on here and I'd gone, all right, David, come on, mate, I've got 10 minutes, let's get this done quick. You'd go, all right, you're a dickhead. But if you spend the time actually talking, and it is experience, and I do think you may disagree with this. No ad in the world is going to have someone coming to you with their cash. Please take my money. It doesn't work, and I think people have got to kind of get their heads out of it. All ads do is give you people that are, the way I look at it, and obviously there is better ads than worse ads. The way I look at it is a lead is just someone that's vaguely interested in what you've got to say. And then it's my job after that to basically go, right, okay, let's take that vague interest into a sale. So it's just kind of spending the time. There's loads of different components, but I think the major issues people do have is their expectations of calls, their expectations of conversion, their confidence with doing it. Obviously, I've been doing it a long time. It's what I do. So I'm going to be more confident. I'm going to be more okay with talking to people. But it is this age-old scared to ask for money, isn't it? And I do think, do you know what? I think a lot of the time that circles back to the offering. So if you said, right, I'm charging 150 quid a month for something, but in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I'm not actually sure this is all that good. Whereas if you went, actually, offering is outstanding. Everything is, we know what's going to happen. It's planned. It's so crisp. It's so much easier to basically say, do you know what? This is 150 quid and it's worth every goddamn penny of that money.
So I was talking to somebody earlier about this, and they're saying to him, when you're talking to them, if it's a sales call or just face to face, you need to make them think that what you're going to give them is, say your price is £99 and everything you're explaining, you're making it sound good. They think in their head, bloody hell, this is going to be 150, 200, 300 pound. So when you say the actual price, they're like shocked, like they're expecting such a massive price tag. And that comes down to the offering, the way you say it to them, the way you approach everything. You make it sound amazing. They instantly think it's going to be a massive price. So when you deliver the price, it's really fantastic. But if you've sold them badly, you've made it sound terrible, they're going to think, oh, you know what, this is just 20 quid. Like, say, rush that call, oh, it's only going to be worth 20 quid, but you're charging 150 a month, then there's a massive difference between what you've actually tried to sell them and the actual price of it, yeah?
Exactly. Experience right from the get-go. But, when asking for money, I got taught a sales trick, basically, to carry around £2,000 in your pocket. Because if you're going to someone and you're going, oh, well, this order is going to be £1,000. If you had £2,000 in your pocket, suddenly that £1,000 you're asking for isn't a lot of money because you just got that walking around cash. It's the same sort of principle, because if you're worried and you're fearful that your product isn't worth the money, it's a lot of money to you. But if you're confident in your product that it is absolutely shit hot, it's no issue. You basically feel like you're cheating yourself for not asking for more.
Yeah, I think I'd say with that as well, something a lot of people need to consider is maybe they are going too expensive to begin. So say you're charging $150 a month and you're getting, out of every 10 sales consultations, you make one sale. Why don't you swap it around so you start £99, every 10 consultations, it's 10 sales, bump up by a fiver, 8 out of 10, bump up by another fiver, 7 out of 10, until you hit that threshold or that ceiling where 4 or 5 out of every 10 sales is a no. And then you've roughly reached that threshold for what your selling capacity is or the offering you're giving out is, yeah.
Exactly. It's testing your concept in the market rather than in your head. because there will be a sweet spot. We obviously know region dictates a lot of it. You do things in the middle of London are going to be a lot different to the outskirts of Norfolk. So region, but you're right. It's just looking, and I think people get annoyed when they have to change things. I love it. I think all you're doing is experimenting with what's going to work best. How can that possibly be a bad thing? If you plan it properly and you say, well, actually, we'll offer this amount, and it doesn't work. All right, offer slightly less. Reduce the price down. And you're right, just scale it. That's all that happens is, get that ball rolling. Once you've got momentum rolling, then a lot of good stuff happens.
Okay, let's go back to those text messages really quickly, because again, we want to try and really focus on chasing the leads. Is it just the 2 text messages you send, or do you send 3 or 4? Is there a number that you would stop at, and is each text getting more serious as you move through the text messages?
Yeah, so basically, again, it will depend on the business, because there's no one size fits all with it. But basically, as an average, I'll do the text, then I'll do the second text, and if it doesn't invoke a response, then basically my next thing after that would just be fire them an email and say, look, real shame I couldn't get hold of you. Again, I'm never ever going to be rude, because I don't think that gets you anywhere. Like, oh, off you go then. I'm cancelling off your list because you didn't want to. Yeah, brilliant. Maybe they're scared shitless about calling you, and that's the problem. So what I mean is, with messages and emails, is just, for me, I have to be quite careful with my time. And if I'm constantly calling, I'll only really call when I've got confirmed bookings, basically. So that's when I'm actually on the phone, because everyone's always looking at their phone. Nobody misses a text message. So the last port of call is just then an email, just saying, look, it's a real shame I couldn't get hold of you. And then I will go through that and just say, I understand, people are sometimes nervous, this. If you would rather, just email me back and we'll do it that way around. Just go from there. You can only give people so many chances, because we do have to accept that people are very used to seeing fitness ads. People have a surge of enthusiasm, but they're not right. So there will always be that margin for error where someone's just inquired and they're not going to do it. And I'd rather kind of look at it and say, because as you know, I don't let things go very long before I'm like, actually, let's stop. Let's rechange it. Let's do this. Let's change that about, and then let's do it again. Because, you can tell within a week if something's working or not. And if you've put ads out and within a week, you just get a load of people going, what's the price? What's the price over text message? Oh, no, they're not really primed for it. So then we have to think about something else and change it about. But it is as simple as that for me. I'm very cautious to say this isn't for everyone. This is just about, how I do things. Because obviously the wording of the message is quite in-depth as well. A language is massively important, and the type of wording you use is obviously quite important as well. So with the first message, it's friendly, it's accessible, and it's making sure that they know exactly what we're looking for, exactly who I am, exactly where I'm from, and what we want to do. Nice and simple. The second message is just about trying to invoke a response one way or another. That's really what I'm trying to do. It's sort of saying, look, you got in touch. There was obviously a reason you got in touch. Let's book a call, or just tell me if you're not interested. And then if I still don't get anything, now send me an email saying, look, this is why I think you might not be getting in touch with me. Turns out if they just don't care, I haven't lost anything. It's an email. So then it's just nice and easy. It's very individual to the business, but that's the general process I'll tend to go through. Yeah,
and that also explains the difference between a Facebook ad and a Google ad. Facebook ad is interruptive marketing. Somebody could have just had a massive argument with their partner. They've had a disagreement because of this person's weight or something. The next thing they've seen on Facebook is a gym advert. They've applied for it. They've then gone back to the kitchen, made up with their partner. They're going out for some lunch. They're best friends again. You phone them up and it's like, no, I wasn't interested in that anymore. Exactly. It was just an impulse thing. Whereas Google ads, you're putting a keyword in, so they're searching for it. So anybody from Google is going to be more interested than a Facebook lead would be.
Well, that's it. We can call that the bit before we get to buyer's remorse is Facebook ad remorse. So they've done it, didn't mean to do it, and then you just got to accept it is what it is.
Okay, let's finish then. Is there any final tips or tricks or anything you'd suggest to people who are getting started with chasing leads or actually making the sales online, or whether it's face-to-face, that you could give to finish?
So if they're getting leads in and they're trying to go through the same process, yeah? So basically, the biggest thing you've got to do is, and I'll touch back on my point about style of selling, is you've just got to sort of forget all this, you have to do this. I never use a script. I've always powerfully rejected scripts because I think there has to be an element of individualism. And even if there's a script where it's rapport build, forget it. For me, it doesn't work because I think you need to be fluid with contacts. You need to have a plan. So if you want, my key tip would be you need to have a running order of the call. If I've ever done anything face-to-face when I was selling my own gym stuff over the phone, there needs to be a solid running order of the call. You can vaguely say this to the people because a lot of it becomes you need to retain control of the call to a certain degree. So when you're on the call, if you're going, oh, you're right, how are you? So what's up? All right, great. You could have done that with a mate. But if you go, look, Pete here from blah, 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 wherever it is, thanks for the call. Look, what I'd love to do is basically, firstly, I want to find out more about you. I want to find out why you got in touch. After that, I want to go through the process, explain what it all is, and then hopefully at the end, we can basically make it work and get you involved. So what that's doing is that's teeing them up, because in their mind, they're being led through the call gently, which is a nice way to do it, rather than me going, you're going to tell me about you, I'm going to tell you about us, and then you're going to sign up. There's obviously different ways of doing it. So if we do that, in their mind, they're being looked after already. Their experience is good because it's efficient. There's a process to the call. There's a running order. So they know the person on the end of the phone is well-versed. They know what they're doing. So do that. Make sure you run through that order. Make sure you get the key bits of information because, waffle will kill a sale every time. Keep it concise, keep it to the point, friendly and detail-orientated. Because waffling, you just lose the rhythm of the call, you lose the intensity of the call. So basically, if you just kind of keep it, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to talk about it, but just keep it easy and realize that you have got your own style of doing it, and it's going to take a while for you to understand how you work best. Because some people, they do work really well with being serious and to the point. Personally, I like to be a bit jokey and a bit more humorous, because I just feel it adds to what I'm trying to do, which is get that person to the end point where they feel amazing. And what they're about to do is a fun, happy thing that's going to change their life. But some people might need to, because that's not their personality, it just sounds like you're going to an awkward comedy club with a crap comedian. And it just sort of kills the vibe of it. So, but the structure, as in the business, the structure will make or break the call, as a structure will make or break a business. That's really what it boils down to. And I would say, with structuring of calls, you need to run it past people or test it, because what you think is an amazing call might turn into you just basically talking at them for 15 minutes and then going, well, you're obviously impressed with that because you haven't said anything. So what's your card details? And they're like, no. So, it's just absolutely killed all their enthusiasm and their inclination. So, my biggest tip is, like I said before, you have got to realise when you're good or bad at sales. It's just one of those uncomfortable truths. You need to be honest, because if you realise that's not what you're there for, your business will flourish because you get someone in that is there to do it. And obviously, my services, for example, I suit a certain size of business, but there are obviously other people that help smaller businesses or whatever it is. And then, the second bit is that structure. I can't stress that enough. Having that structure and being comfortable with your own style of calling will always get you a lot further.
Perfect. I think anybody watching or listening to this is going to have a better, clearer understanding now of chasing leads. But like you say, what works for you might not work for them. So it's practice, trial and error, and just seeing what works. And then don't hate life because this one didn't work. Have a go at changing it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's it.
So if anybody who's listening or watching this wanted to find out a little bit more about you or the type of things that you offer or your services, where could they get hold of you?
So, as we said, I'm quite under the radar. But basically, people can search me out on Facebook, Pete Drinkwater. There's also Instagram and Facebook for the business, which I'm going to endeavour to be a little bit more active on, which is Think Tank. So that's Instagram and Facebook. But basically, if people have got questions or they want to kind of look at if this is going to be the right avenue for them, then get in touch with me on social. It's probably the best way.
Yeah, or just message me and I can redirect you to
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, mutual contact. Yeah.
Perfect.
I know a guy.
Perfect. Thank you. So that was Pete, and it was a really insightful interview as well, because we've had sales interviews before. We've talked about sales techniques and stuff, but it was interesting to have Pete come from a slightly different angle to some of the other people we've talked about before, in the way he texts them first or texts them twice and then sends the email to book the call rather than chase them on the phone. But we'll go through different strategies throughout this week, as this week is all about chasing leads. If you want to check out some of the videos we have, check out some of these videos just here. But if not, I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below and let me know what you thought, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Cheers.